Good day. It's still the 28th of June. How do you like that? This one's going to be on military discharges. And some of you it'll affect, some of you it doesn't affect. But even if it doesn't affect you, you might know someone that it affects. So please share this video with them because there isn't much on the web that is good about military discharges and how to upgrade them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to explain that in a concise video. Good luck, okay? The first thing you need to know, anything less than a fully honorable discharge is going to be held against you by future employers. Now, why is that? It's going to be held more against you than it was 50 or 60 years ago. Here's why. 7% of us are military veterans, and by us I mean Americans. When I was growing up, it was over 50% of men because you had World War II. Most men had served in World War II. Today, most men have not served in the military, even smaller proportion of women. It's a very small demographic. Most civilians don't understand military life. They don't understand military law. They don't understand what the services can or cannot do. And a lot of them have very unrealistic expectations of what military life is even like. And a lot of them don't know. And a lot of them don't know that sometimes people can get hurt, sometimes not through a lot of fault of their own in the military. Okay, they might have a little case of the attitude, but the CO and the first sergeant, if they don't like you, they're going to get you. Okay? And again, your grandparents might have known that. I may know that, but people nowadays, they don't know that. They don't know that. Now, how did I get my knowledge? Well, this is an interesting story in and of itself. I worked for the first sergeant. Why? Because I was a troublemaker. Just put that flat out. They put me to work for him, but they found out I could do something. This was in the Marines. I could write. So when people were getting their medals, you have to have someone who could write that up. That was me. When people were going to get discharged, that was me again. The CO couldn't write as well as I could. I could write. I was E2, E3. I could write. It's just something I can do. I can't play basketball. I can't play baseball. I can write. Okay? So I learned a lot about this, and how to interpret regulations. Later on, it served me in the DEA because I wrote sections of the DEA Agent's Manual on asset forfeiture, on arrest procedures, on the use of confidential sources. Okay? So that's where I've got my knowledge. So what you're going to see next is a abbreviated a summary of the different types of discharges, why they are given, and a summary of the grounds that can be used to upgrade a discharge. Okay? And one thing keep in mind, when most people try to upgrade their discharge, they don't have any idea what grounds they have to cite to upgrade the discharge. They say, I want my discharge upgraded because it'll help my chances for employment. That's totally irrelevant. I want my discharge upgraded because I can get VA benefits. Totally irrelevant. Okay, the only reason you get your discharge upgraded, it's done improperly, or it's inequitable, or a third reason, clemency. And I'm going to explain those. So please take this video, and if you know people who are in the service, I want this one spread kind of as wide and as far as it can be, because there's a lot of people out there with unfavorable discharges who don't know how to get their discharge upgraded. One of the most important documents a person receives in their life if they were in the service is a DD Form 214. Department of Defense 214 is a report of separation from active duty. And on the DD 214, it'll have characterization of service. And that characterization is very, very important. And generally, there are 6 types of characterizations that can be given to enlisted personnel. And in order of preference, they start at the honorable discharge, uncharacterized entry-level separation, and I'm going to explain all these in a minute. General discharge under honorable conditions, other than honorable, bad conduct, and dishonorable. These are given to enlisted personnel. Officers, it's a little different. They can receive an honorable discharge, a general discharge, and other than honorable discharge, or they can be dismissed. They can't be given a bad conduct or dishonorable. If they get a general court and they decide to throw them out, they're dismissed from the service. The best kind, this one, the honorable discharge. The most favorable characterization available. If you are in the service, if you're planning on going in, don't settle for anything less. It indicates that your service is not only creditable, but honorable, honest, and faithful. And it's routinely given to soldiers, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen at the successful completion of their enlistment, and almost routinely given to Navy and Marines unless they have substandard conduct and proficiency marks, or during their service were convicted by a general court-martial but were not punitively discharged. Then they go and they will issue sometimes a general discharge under honorable conditions, but they can give a fully honorable discharge. And the honorable discharge characterizes the recipient as a veteran, eligible for all the benefits bestowed by the United States on her veterans. Okay, what is the ELS, the uncharacterized separation? It's given to those who are basically separated within the first 6 months of their service for a variety of reasons. It can range from anything such as your medical issues, you got allergies, an asthma attack in boot camp, an epileptic attack, to just dropping out of training. The service is considered creditable, and that it counts toward federal service. Obviously, they can't get VA benefits because they weren't in long enough. The ELS is treated as roughly the equivalent of an honorable or general discharge by the VA, and it's the second most common discharge. Not intended to be adverse, but it is treated as adverse by many employers unlawfully. Okay? The third type, the general discharge under honorable conditions, almost always given to people who are separated before their service term ends for a variety of negative reasons. And this could include personality disorders, minor UCMJ violations, mostly poor performance. Okay, basically you're getting kicked out. That's what this is. You're getting kicked out, but it's not as bad as it could be. And recipients are generally, they can't get the post 9/11 GI Bill, and they can look for discrimination in employment when applying for certain jobs, particularly anything with a security clearance, anything in law enforcement. This is going to hurt you. The worst type, administrative, other than honorable, not going to pull any punches, it's bad. It's generally given for prolonged misconduct, commission of a serious offense, drug abuse, sometimes discharge in lieu of trial by court-martial. Back in the day when I was in, they would give this to, President Ford had issued an order giving it to those who had deserted during the Vietnam War. They just turned themselves in. They got, at the time it was called an undesirable discharge, but you had guys like at Camp Pendleton, like 30, 40, 50 of them walking around any time, long hair, just waiting to get their undesirable discharges. Okay? The bad conduct. This is a punitive discharge. It can be given to enlisted personnel who are convicted of intermediate or serious offenses by either a special or general court. It's bad. Now, oddly enough, people who get this could be eligible for certain VA benefits. The VA has to determine if the service was under dishonorable conditions, but they do not get educational benefits and most VA benefits, but certain you could get. The most important ones being the home loan and the educational benefits. Those help you the most, and with this, you don't get either one. The worst type, the dishonorable discharge, this is the worst thing you can get. It can only be given by a general court, the most serious court. For the most serious offenses against the UCMJ, recipients are federal felons who cannot own or possess a firearm, and they lose all VA benefits. Now, what is a re-enlistment code? When a person is separated, they get a code on their DD-214. It's a numeric and alphabetical code. Now, generally an RE1 or RE1A means you can re-enlist. An RE2 with different alphabetic codes depending on the service. They're all different. It generally means it's a temporary disqualification, such as a hardship. If you got 10 kids and 2 wives, okay, you're getting a hardship discharge, but if that hardship was to disappear, then you would be eligible to go back in. And RE3 generally means you had some bad behavior in the military, and they might let you back in, but you need a waiver, which is hard to get. RE4, generally ineligible for re-enlistment. You might have asthma. That's grounds for an RE4. Now, you might have a fully honorable discharge. Now, this is why this is important. Confusion. Again, only 7% of Americans have served in the military. Most people don't know anything about it. And many employers are confused by coding on discharge forms. Some law enforcement agencies believe that an RE4 is somehow a secret designation of bad service, even though the discharge itself is fully honorable. So remember this, regulations, wording, codes cited on discharges, they are for the military only, if the person should choose to re-enlist. They should never be adversely interpreted by civilians, as they can and do change, and are in many cases totally irrelevant and unlawful to use in employment decisions. Okay? Now, how to upgrade a bad discharge or less than honorable? If you have an uncharacterized general OTH bad conduct, you can apply for review to the Army, Navy, or Air Force Discharge Review Board if the separation took place less than 15 years ago. Most applications are denied, and legal help is strongly encouraged. Most applications do not even cite valid grounds to upgrade a discharge. A person will say, for instance, I want my discharge upgraded so I can get education benefits, or so that I can re-enlist, or so that I can get a job in law enforcement. Those are irrelevant reasons. They might be perfectly valid, but they're irrelevant to upgrade a discharge. Well, why can a discharge be upgraded? How can you do that? The first thing that a person needs to do is they have to obtain their service and medical records. And that's done by writing to St. Louis, not just the 214, but the service and medical records. And then look in the service record for the discharge package, if it was an admin discharge. And then remember that the primary factors considered by the service boards: was the discharge proper and was it equitable? They don't care about whether you want veterans benefits. They don't care if you want to go in law enforcement. They don't care about any of that. These are the two main things. Was it done properly? Was it equitable? Propriety. Was the discharge proper? Did they follow the proper procedures in discharging the recipient? They may have, they may not have. Okay, to apply this and to claim, it requires a comparison of the discharge package that's in your 201 or service record with the relevant regulations issued by each service's discharge regs, which can be downloaded on the internet. You may know how to do this, you may not. But now, if due process was violated, if you were supposed to have had an admin board and you did not, then the review board may be compelled to upgrade the separation. Now remember this, because this is the most important part. There's a presumption of regularity in government administration. And this means that unless you allege impropriety, it's assumed that the discharge was properly administered. So number one, you have to allege impropriety. Secondly, you have to provide evidence. And that evidence is what's in your discharge package, or if there is a discharge package even there. In a lot of cases, it's not even in the 201 or service record, in which event there is no evidence, and you're then going to have to make a statement to the discharge review board as to what your understanding of the process was, and it may or may not have followed what the military required. Okay, but if you don't raise that, they're just going to assume everything is fine. The second thing is equity. Was the discharge equitable? Did people who did the same type of conduct, did they get the same type of treatment? The third reason is post-discharge conduct. That's basically a request for upgrade based on clemency. And if you can demonstrate good character after discharge, the board may upgrade your discharge. And this requires letters of recommendation, proof of stable employment, community service, etc., and it's not likely given. So there you have it, the different types of discharge, why they're given, grounds for upgrading. Okay, important because I just saw something the other day on the Capitol Police where they are not accepting people who have less than honorable discharges. And again, this is, I have 3 fully honorable discharges, but again, I think sometimes people are, do get the short end of the stick in the military. Sometimes, it takes 2 to tangle. Sometimes you were the one who got in trouble, but sometimes they can come down too severely on people. And I think that one mistake that a person makes should not be held against them the rest of their life, and they should know how to go about appealing it. So my hope is that this is shared as widely as possible, and if we get it out there, then there's better chance that people will understand what grounds they can cite in applying for an upgrade. My next one will be on the FBI, so have a good day.